In this lesson, we'll talk about local and global variables and conditional statements. A variable is a name for the storage space that our program utilizes. A variable can be set of numbers, string of text, or even function or table depending on the language. We assign values as such to a name for easier access to set values. The name of a variable can be a mix of letters, digits, and the underscore character, but it needs to begin with either a letter or an underscore. Variables in Lua are case sensitive and do not have data types, and instead, what is important is the scope of the variable. When assigning a value to a variable, you have to specify whether the variable is local or by default it will be set as global. When a variable is set as global, it can be accessed from anywhere, while if it is specified as local, it only resides within the function where it was originally created. Now, let's try using variables in our code. Create practice01.lua in the project directory. On the first line, write local text 01 equals hello Lua. Then on the next line, type print open parenthesis, double quotation mark, hello, world, double quotation mark, and close parenthesis. If this code was to be executed, it would just print hello world like it did with hello.lua. So let's delete hello world with quotation marks. And then write the name of the local variable text01 without quotation mark. When a text is surrounded by quotation marks, it indicates that it is a string. When calling a variable, we do not put quotation marks around them. And now, click the execute button again, and you will get hello Lua in the output console. This is how you define a local variable. The conditional statements. When programming, there will be a need for running a snippet of the code, only when certain condition is true. This is done by an if statement. If the condition asks is true, you run the codes inside the if block. If it is false, then you run the codes inside the else block. This will make more sense with an example. Create a file named practice02.lua. First, let's create two local variables, IO and status. Set IO to 0 and status to off as shown in the screenshot. Then print status and write the if statement as shown in the picture, and print the status again. As shown, a simple if statement is consisted of if the condition we want to check, then code we want to execute if the condition is met, and finish the statement with an end. This if statement is saying if IO is equal to 0, then change the status to on. Initially, as shown in the output console, the status is off and it was changed to on after executing the if condition. The if condition checked whether IO is equal to 0, which is true because we assigned 0 to IO on line 1, so the status was changed to on. Next, we will apply the else condition. First, change the value of IO from 0 to 1, then right above the end, type else and write status equals off on the next line. When you execute this code, it will say off and off as status was off initially, and because IO is not equal to 0, it executed the code after else, which assigned the value off to status. This is the if-else statement. For reference, please keep in mind that for Lua, a non-nil value is considered true just like any other programming languages, but 0 is considered to be true and non-zeros are considered to be false. Now let's talk more about the local variables. All variables have their own scope. The scope of local variables is limited to the block where they are defined. First, change the value of IO to 0 so that we meet the condition of the if statement. Next, inside if statement, after assigning on to status, create a local variable called humidity with a value of 45. Then in the end of the code, print humidity and execute the code. As seen on the output console, the value of humidity is set to be nil, not 45. This is due to the fact the local variable is limited to where it was defined, which is inside the if block. Now let's try printing humidity in the else block. Change the IO to 1 so the if-else statement will go to else block, and print humidity in the else block. When you execute this code, you will receive nil as the variable humidity was never assigned throughout the execution of the code. It was inside the if block where the code skipped because the condition was not met. Now, change the value of IO to 0 and print the humidity inside the if block after assigning a value to humidity. You will see that 45 gets printed on the output console after the execution. This is why utilizing the scope of the variable is important. We are able to print the status at the end of the code because the local variable status is defined at the top of the file and it is not enclosed inside any block. Most of the programs are made up of multiple files, calling one another in various ways. When a local variable is created on top of the file as such, it will not be callable from other files. As opposed to local variables, global variables are callable from anywhere. Global variables do not need anything in front of the variable name. To make humidity a global variable, we just need to delete local from line 8. When executed, it shows that humidity is indeed 45. Let's print the value of humidity at the end of the file as well. As you can see, the value of humidity was printed twice. The first one is in if block and second one is outside the if block, and both of them have the value of 45, unlike when humidity was a local variable. Like this, global variables can be accessed from anywhere, even from different files. Let's make another file named practice03.lua. Declare two global variables, SSID as 012346 and password as password, and save the code by executing the file. Now that we have defined two global variables in this file, let's call these variables from practice02.lua. First thing first, to be able to call anything from a different file, we have to import the file. To import a file, you type require and inside parentheses, put the name of the file you're importing without the extension. In our case, we type require, open parentheses, quotation mark, practice03, quotation mark, and close parentheses. On the second line, print SSID. On the third line, print password. Then when execute the code, you will see the values are printed even when the variables were never defined in this file. The printed values of the variables are from the practice03 file. Let's change the values in practice03 file and execute the practice02 file again. Change the value of SSID to 6 sevens and password to random characters, then execute. When you execute practice02 file, you can confirm that the values were indeed updated to the new values. This is the difference between global and local variable in LUA script. If the values in practice03 were local variables, we would have received nil instead of the defined values when called in practice02. Global variables can be accessed from anywhere, whereas local variables are limited to where it was defined. On the next lesson, we'll go over string and math library. If you have any questions, please let us know on the Q&A board. Thank you.